This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go.
Good morning.
Good morning, my friend. How are you this morning?
I'm actually good for a Wednesday.
That's
Why
great.
not?
Yeah, why not?
Happy hump day.
It's just another day of the week,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Wednesday. Which day did Seinfeld say had no feel? Monday had a feel. Tuesday, I think
Yeah,
Thursday has no feel. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
maybe. Yeah, yeah.
So you're out on your porch this morning. We got a different
I
look.
I am. Yeah, live from Tottenham, Ontario, on Chris's porch. Here we are. Yeah, it's a beautiful morning here. It's been warm lately. Yeah, I just decided to switch it up. I know that you often comment on the halo on my head, but it's somewhat blinding. So I figured I would switch it up, head outside, and hang out on the porch this morning. So I'm happy to be here.
You look good. I like it. I
Thank,
like it.
thank
I bet you those words have never been uttered before. Live from Chris's porch in Tottenham.
Not, not likely. It's a first for everything, eh?
I guess so. Tottenham? That's how you say your hometown? Tottenham?
Tottenham, just
Tottenham.
just like England, Tottenham Hotspur and all that
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, Tottenham. Tot
Tottenham,
ah,
live from Tottenham.
I hello, Bushy. I can do a good bond if I have about an hour and then I finally get one good one
Yeah,
out.
yeah, just work your way into it.
I just eventually one hits. That's it.
That's it.
So listen, on some of our other podcasts, we have definitely, or I have, I think you have too. We've skirted
Yeah,
around our addiction issues we've had,
yeah,
and how much it's affected our life. So
yeah.
I thought, why not hit it straight on,
Right.
and talk about addiction? It's listen, it's heavy, it's serious, but it doesn't mean it's going to be sad. I mean, you and I have conquered we're dealt with our addictions. We're always addicts, but
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
there's a positive spin to it. I think people can get some hope from it, and yeah, I look forward to talking about it.
yeah. I totally agree. I forget exactly what the quote is in the book, but in the big book, and it's basically, yeah, we're addicts, and we had our problems, but we're not a glum lot. We're joyous today because we're free of that, and so that's
Absolutely.
a wonderful place to get to for sure.
So you're going to give us our definition?
I am as always. I actually, I've got two definitions today. The first one being addiction, and the second one, I don't know. We talked about it at a meeting recently. The second one's sobriety. So I'm going to do both. So the topic today is addiction, and the definition of addiction from the dictionary is the fact or condition of being addicted to a particular substance, thing, or activity.
Oh, interesting.
So we know it's not always a substance, right? It can be a thing or an activity. So
Absolutely.
and then yeah, I don't know why, but I felt like the sobriety thing was interesting because sobriety refers to the psychological and physiological state of being unaffected by the presence of an intoxicant.
Say that one again for me.
Sobriety refers to the physiological and psychological state of being unaffected by the presence of an intoxicant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And
Yeah, because I mean, in AA, people who don't drink alcoholically are referred to as normies. And they can drink normally. They can have a couple of drinks and they're unaffected. They don't feel the need to like kill the whole bottle and then kill another bottle and another bottle. So
Mhm.
I thought that was kind of an interesting, just an add-on to what it is to be
I
be sober. And that has to do with consumption of intoxicants as opposed to addiction, which can obviously be related to activities, as well as substances. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we call them civilians a lot.
yeah, yeah,
But I also get a kick out of how, I always thought it was interesting how, because I admit that I'm an addict, or Chris Mitz is an addict.
yeah,
Sometimes people will almost, I've had family members, not close ones, but kind of look down at me,
yeah,
even though these people are actively drinking and smoking, and they're 100% addicts, but because they don't come out and say they're addicts, well, they're not an addict. Sean's an
right,
addict, and I'm like,
right,
well,
right,
I admitted I'm an addict. You didn't, but
right, right.
anyway.
Yeah, and that's interesting because in my early sobriety, my brother is also sober. He's been sober 5.5 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we were talking a bit about people that we knew that we felt were alcoholic. And I said, "Oh, so and so is an alcoholic. So and so is an alcoholic." And my brother said something I thought was quite poignant. He said, I don't feel the need to define them as alcoholics. I find it's obviously it's judgmental, of course, and it's us deciding whether they are. And he said if they admit that they're alcoholic or addict, then that's probably that's a more important thing. And I totally agree. And I thought it was, we're easy to criticize others, because we see the behavior and we can identify with it. So but yeah, I mean, the biggest step is to, in fact, admit and to identify yourself as an alcoholic. And I think I'll just keep going because
Yeah, for sure.
I knew for a long time that I didn't drink normally. I knew that I was kind of often the last man standing. If we had a party, I would probably drink more than most people. I would probably kind of, I would manage it usually throughout the party, and then I'd kind of like ramp it up at the end, right? So not everybody would always see that ramp up at the end, but I would always kind of do it. And it wasn't until last year that a good friend of mine said to me, "I think you're an alcoholic," and that's
How did you take that?
I took it well. I think as I recollect it, I took it well because I was in the really late stages of a really dark couple years, and so I knew how much I was drinking. So it was hard for me not to agree with it.
Right.
I took it though. It was a shock, honestly, which is so. I mean, that's the insanity of addiction. It was a shock to me that because I had drank. I mean, I think that week I had just moved. I was barely getting anything done around the house. I was just literally like drinking all day long, morning, eat, afternoon, night, sleeping on and off. And I think I had drank like 20 liters of wine in like 4 or 5 days. Yeah, I was drinking, and this is, for a long time I drank nice, like good quality wine. I was all about having a wine cellar, having a bunch of nice wines in my basement. Man, at the end, I just drank boxes of like, I don't want to like, well, I drank boxes of Jackson Triggs, like it was like the shittiest, cheapest fucking, and it was all about volume. I mean, sure, I would get drunk, but I would want to pace it out as long as I could. I would want to like ride that wave. It was just like this never ending wave. Like, I didn't want to ride a little wave and get like really drunk really fast. I wanted to ride a long wave all day long.
So you wanted to be drunk just 24 hours a day.
Basically. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you killing this? You're going to tell your story, I know, but were
Yeah.
you killing a certain pain at that time? Was it because of something
I was.
specific that set you over the edge?
I was. It was, I mean, look, it was a long lead up. Like I had been suffering from depression for many years. But I think the big catalyst was the breakup of my second marriage. Um, and then what happened is I went out on my own, and I was excited about that in a lot of ways. I mean, I the marriage wasn't working, and so it felt like a relief to not have to answer to someone, listen to someone's criticism, all the different things that were going on in my head. But I quickly realized that being on my own, I was just incredibly lonely. And so I masked both the loneliness and the depression by drinking, by just, just masking the pain, by just kind of, yeah, getting out of my head. Like alcohol, it's to me, it was an escape, right? It was just, when you blur yourself to the point where you don't even think about much, that's what I wanted.
Right.
And I'd listen to music loud and I'd like, I'd just like smoke a bunch of cigarettes and just sit out on my porch and just like, just have fun. I just wanted to have fun. In my mind, it was fun. But I was really just ignoring the issues that I had.
Plus,
Uh,
no checks and balance anymore, right? Like even when you're with your wife, even if things, are coming to an end, you still have someone you're answering to. You don't, and
yeah,
your boys are there. You're not going to just be blot out drunk. But all of a sudden, there's no yin to your yang. There's no there's nothing.
no, there's no barometer check other than my own. So
Right.
nobody's questioning my decisions. I can make
Your
whatever
barometer up.
decision I want. Yeah, whenever I want. And yeah, there was a freedom in that. And honestly, to reflect on it now, I guess I'm grateful for it because ultimately it led to the low point, which again in AA, most people would agree that unless you hit a rock bottom, you're probably going to keep drinking. Like you need to hit a rock bottom in order to start climbing out, right? And if just because we're going along here, I mean, I hit a rock bottom shortly after I was told I was an addict. Because that night I probably had a half a box of wine left, but after that I got off that call, I dumped it, and it was actually like probably less than 16 hours later, which is shocking to most people because it usually takes a little longer. But I was I was shaking so violently that I thought I was going to die.
And with
I,
alcoholism withdrawal, you can die.
100%. And I was literally pacing around my house, just trying to keep moving because if I sat still, my hands were shaking, my legs were shaking, my chest was shaking, my whole body was shaking. And man, I prayed. I prayed so hard that day. I can't tell you. And we talked about this in a maybe it was just you and I talking about it. But when you're really, really, really when something really bad is going on, you're just like, please God, please God. I must have said please God 500 times that day because I didn't want to go. I didn't want to die. I thought I was going to die, and
But you didn't drink.
I didn't drink that day. You
Yeah.
mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
no. It was just it was the withdrawal, and so
But
eventually,
grab
I can't remember. It was probably around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I called the ambulance and I said, "Man, I need you to pick me up." I couldn't even drive. I mean, I have a license and I couldn't imagine driving my truck. I mean, the hospital's 20 minutes away. I couldn't do it. And yeah, I spent the day in the hospital and they gave me IVs and various treatments. And yeah, thankfully I recovered that day and I was sober. I was sober for a number of months, but I didn't follow the program. I didn't do the steps. I didn't get a sponsor. I didn't do the things I should have, and I started drinking again. And then I had another rock bottom moment later that year where my family basically came to me and that there was an intervention, and they just said, look, you either drink yourself to death and die, or you get straight. But this is your last chance.
with them.
Yeah, yeah. They basically gave me the ultimatum that if I was going to continue to do this, they were not going to speak to me anymore.
They didn't want to be part of it. Yeah.
No,
I
no.
understand. Like I always quote from Shawshank, get busy living or get busy dying.
And that's where I was. I was getting busy. I was getting busy dying, of course, because I was killing myself with this. I mean, I'm drinking poison. Like, it's
Yes.
a strange thing to say, but alcohol is literally a poison. And actually, just a real quick aside, I've been trying to quit smoking too. So, and I don't know, most people probably don't know this, but if you injected nicotine directly into your arm, you would die instantly.
Really?
Yeah.
So why do people use nicotine products?
I have no idea.
Crazy.
That is
Crazy.
that is insane, isn't it?
It is. I don't understand it.
So yeah.
God,
Anyway,
I miss smoking. I vape now, but I miss smoking so bad.
I know, and it's such a weird thing. Like it's just such a habitual thing that I mean, it's the most addictive. It's the most addictive chemical on earth. Like nicotine is the most addictive.
Not to digress, my wife was just telling me that what country was it? There's a country, I believe in Europe.
Yeah.
If you're born at a certain year or later, it's illegal to start smoking ever for
Oh
the
my,
rest of your life.
wow.
Yeah, because it's killing. It might even be one of the states are doing it. It doesn't make any difference. I can't remember the details, but somebody's doing it, and it's because it's killing like more people than anything else. Like
Well,
by leaps and bounds. It's incredible.
I mean, let's be honest. It's a massive strain on the healthcare system. Like,
Yes.
there's no two ways about it. It like cancer, heart disease, chronic pulmonary, like all these things. Like there are countless numbers, and just, I mean, I don't like, again, we've talked about it. I'm 55. Like when I started smoking, cigarettes were $3. So if you buy a premium pack of cigarettes, now they're $22. Like you're just like, what am I doing?
We used to buy them two for a quarter from the guy at the store.
Nuts.
But what it stinks. It doesn't taste particularly good, but I love it. I miss it. I see someone smoking in movies, and I just go, "Oh my gosh, I want one of those cigarettes so bad." But
It's funny because I've gotten to the point where I see other people doing it and I think, oh, you poor person. Like, well,
oh,
because, and look, a lot of things are mindset. Like you're saying you love to see that. My mindset is now like, oh, I feel sorry for you.
yeah, well, I don't, but I don't miss the smell.
No,
The things I vape have 0 scent,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I don't know why my wife let me crawl in bed with her. I really don't. I
yeah,
got a cigarette in the garage. I ruined everything in the garage. It's all covered in yellow.
yeah,
And and then I would come in the house, I'm sure smelling like a chimney, and
yeah.
then call in the bedroom and go, "Come here, honey, give me a big smooch." And she'd be like, "Jesus."
Oh God, yeah, and yeah. I mean, I brush my teeth like 7 times a day. I'm constantly washing my beard. Like it's just like, what on earth?
I used
Anyway,
to SOS pad my fingers to get the yellow off.
yeah, yeah.
That's
The
sane,
things
right?
you do, it's just not. It really is. You talk about addiction and the insanity that you know you can get yourself into, of course, and everyone does who's been an addict. You do become insane, and yeah, the addiction to cigarettes is a certain form of insanity as well. Like,
But and we'll touch on that as you move forward. I want to hear your story more. It bothers me. Like they've taken away all cigarette advertising. They don't want kids to think about smoking. They took away my precious menthol cigarettes, which broke my heart. I love my
yeah,
menthols. And all this against cigarettes, cigarettes, cigarettes. They've put the taxes way up.
way out.
Yet alcohol is killing people,
Yeah,
their health. It's ruining families, ruin mine, and they advertise it everywhere. It's in the fucking grocery store now. When I go buy my peanut butter, there's the booze. Like,
I
anyway.
think. Well, I think that the reality of these things is they're acceptable until they're not acceptable, right? So social acceptance of cigarettes has changed a ton. I mean, you used to be able to smoke on a plane, you smoke in restaurants. Like these things are slowly changing, which I mean, progress is slow. There's no doubt about it. But the reality of alcohol consumption is it is changing too. We have in Toronto, we have non-alcoholic stores now. You can go into a store where they have hundreds, if not thousands, of different products that are all not non-alcoholic. You can buy non-alcoholic gin, non-alcoholic whiskey, non-alcoholic wine, non-alcoholic beer.
You're kidding.
No, no.
Why
So
would you buy non-alcoholic gin? It tastes like
because,
rubbing alcohol.
because you like to taste. It tastes like gin, but without the alcohol. So there is a shift. A friend of mine in AA, she's from Edinburgh. There is a non-alcoholic bar, completely non-alcoholic. That's all they serve. I honestly think that could probably fly in Toronto. I've thought about it. Like it's a safe place it's a safe place for people who have addiction.
But you sit at a bar and you meet girls or men and you listen to some
Yeah, you have a fake beer and you have a fake gin and tonic, and you have a nice meal, and you don't leave falling down drunk and drive your car into a tree, or God forbid, drive your car into a nut. Because people still have strong associations with those places, and they still want to feel like there's a normality after they've gotten sober. And so going to a bar and having a non-alcoholic beer with your friends, it's great. It's a great option. I mean, I feel like there is a shift. I mean, you're saying like they've done away with advertising and cigarettes and all these things. I think that those things will start to change as well, because the realization of the destructiveness of alcohol will come to the forefront more and more every year.
Well, when I was a child, I used to go to the liquor store with my father, but back then they were called liquor control boards. Like they were to control alcohol. Now they advertise alcohol. Now it's on sale. Now they trying to mandate it. I remember we used to have a cottage and we go to this small town in Pugwash, and it was like a consumer's distributing. Dad would walk in, there was just
Yeah.
a cash on a wall, and he'd have
Yeah.
to tell them what he wanted. It would come rolling out and he'd pay for it, but you couldn't shop around or look
Right,
or I
right.
think that's the way it should be. Plain packaging. Ask
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that is, of course, still that is what LCBO stands for, right?
Yeah,
It
but it's
Alcohol Board of Ontario. No, it's not. It's open season for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
They have sales and
Oh, and like
it's
think
not
of
looks like it's made for kids.
the sheer number of different products these days. Like you go into there's 50 different tequilas, there's 50 different, it's just like everybody and their uncle is like into the, because it's a huge game, right?
Every celebrity. I mean, George Clooney became a billionaire selling his
Well, tequila with tequila, right? For
yeah,
$1 billion, enough.
Kevin Hart,
Power to
everybody.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's great, but somebody's drinking all that. If you made $1 billion off something, a lot of people drank it,
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah.
one guy out of a million products, So
Absolutely. Yeah. So,
anyway, continue with your story. Sorry to interrupt.
you want me to continue?
Yeah. If you if you want.
Well, what's that? Yeah. So
Your
then I guess yes, September 10th, that was my that was my sober date. I've had one slip, so I've had there's 1 day minus in there, because I still, I guess I wasn't really over it, so I went back to it as a security. But um it was a really scary time, of course. So we did the intervention. The next day I went to stay with my brother. I was supposed to go into rehab. First you have to detox for 5 days, and then I was supposed to go into rehab. So I think it was the Tuesday or the Wednesday I went to, there's a great organization here in Newmarket, Ontario called, call it out, it's called Cornerstone. It was started a number of years ago by a former addict. It's a wonderful place, wonderful space. There's a gym, there's meetings every day. And so I went there for a meeting, and I was supposed to go into a 90-day rehab center. I was scared shitless, man. I was like, what the hell is going to happen here? Like, what am I doing with my apartment? There were so many questions. Like,
Were you down,
sorry?
downtown then?
No, it's actually close to my home. It's just outside of Aurora.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And, I've always been kind of somebody who's very methodical. I like to know, I like to ask a lot of questions. I like to know, but there were so many unknowns. I was scared shitless. And I got there and we talked, and they basically said, Chris, like you've gotten through the detox. You look pretty good. Like he said, this place is for people that are really like worse shape than you. And we only have a certain number of beds, and we have to give them to people that are worse off. And oh my God, it was such a relief. It was such a relief. It was scary at the same time.
I remember that.
Because now, so they told me to go into the day program. They offered a day program where you go every morning and you spend the day and you go to a meeting and you spend a lot of time with alcoholics and addicts. But it was very scary because I was still at home. I was still on my own, and I could just go home very easily and drink, and nobody would know. So it took a lot of willpower. No, there's no doubt about it.
Sure.
But I had hit the rock bottom, and the will was there. There's no question. And the great thing about it was they kind of they really oversaw my program, and so they gave me a sponsor right away. It wasn't up to me. They gave me a sponsor. I started working with him right away. I was meeting with people every day, and as you mentioned earlier, it's a wonderful place to be for an addict, alcoholic, because there is no judgment in those rooms. Everyone that's in there has been exactly where you have been,
Right.
either a little less or a little more, but they all know, and they don't look at you like you're an idiot. They sympathize, frankly. They understand. They share so incredibly openly and honestly. I mean, the meetings that I've been to and the shares, like some of the things that people are willing to tell complete strangers, would blow your mind. It won't blow your mind, Sean. It would blow people,
Right.
maybe they're listening to this that haven't been into these rooms. It's the honesty. And for so many years, Sean, I just was lying. I was lying to myself. I was lying to others. And I said it early on in one of the meetings, and it's a famous Shakespearean quote. Most people know it. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when at first we practice to deceive. I mean, it is such a tangled mess. You don't even know what your truths are and your lies are anymore. It's so, God, it just,
Get them, and you say something, you go, oh,
you
wait a
don't
minute.
know what you told one person. Yeah, it's so, it there's so much guilt and shame that goes along with it that you just, it's overwhelming. It eats at your heart, your stomach.
This whole
Man, to just be free in those rooms was just a gift, such a gift. And I'm so grateful for the programs. I'm so grateful for the people that I've met. It's a tough road, man. I tell you, like, I know personally at least 4 people that have died since I've met them in the program. That have, yeah, that have gone out,
that hurts.
that have used again, that have either overdosed, committed suicide. There's been a number of people. It is a successful program, but people, not a lot of people don't make it. They don't get it in time, and it's unfortunate. And that's the reality of addiction. It's a killer. Whether you put it, you don't realize it. Well, you probably do realize it, but you're willing to risk it, and you're willing to roll the dice. Like in this non-smoking book, he's like, if you knew that you had one more cigarette and you would get cancer like tonight, would you do it?
Probably.
Isn't that insane?
I know, but I probably would.
It's so insane.
I'm
But
still
you're
vaping.
right.
I'm sure it's terrible for me. I'm still doing it.
And oftentimes that's the rock bottom you have to hit. A lot of people, they may not quit until they get cancer. And even then, you see people like outside of hospitals that look like they're probably going through chemotherapy, smoking.
They got oxygen masks, and they take it off to take a puff of their cigarette. I did
that. Honestly, I did that with my dad at the end, but it was, I didn't blame him because he knew he was dying. He had a death sentence. But yeah, we would turn the oxygen off. I remember the Champions League, the soccer it was coming to an end, so I'd go. I stayed with them a lot, but Tuesdays and Wednesdays we watched the Champions League game. We'd turn off the oxygen. We'd wait for the room to clear a little bit. We'd light up a couple of cigars, just sit in the living room.
But you know what's so strange about that? It sounds insane, but it sounds wonderful at the same time.
And it was for him. I mean, he was there was it didn't matter if he was going to quit. It was irrelevant. It wasn't going to save his life, right?
Make him miserable. So
yeah, I mean, those were a few simple pleasures. Then my mom would come home and she's like, are you smoking in here? Are you trying to blow up our house? I'm like, Mom, we turned the oxygen off. We opened the windows, but the house didn't blow up. Like, we're okay.
What are you, crazy, Mom?
The voice of reason amidst the insanity of
smoking was. I don't know why we're talking so much about smoking, but I remember
it's an addiction. That's what we're talking about.
My doctor used to smoke when I visited him. There was ashtrays in the waiting room, and I used to go to my best friend's house when I was a teenager. His parents did not smoke. And she put an ashtray out for me, and I'd sit there in her living room and smoke.
Wow. Today, there's no chance.
Oh, you light a cigarette in Shonda's house? Good luck. You better run right after you hit light.
Getting pulled out by the ear.
She'd just be, are you out of here? In mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, things have changed quickly. Yeah.
Well, they change. I don't know about quickly, but they do change.
Yeah, yeah,
They
that's
do
true.
change. So that's a positive thing.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm glad you are here. I'm glad,
I'm
you know,
glad I'm here too, man. I'm glad I'm very grateful for that. And
everything led you to this spot. Uh, it's not an easy way to get there, but it's still a good spot, you know.
I think about it all the time. And either way, yeah, I think you have to be grateful for it. Your life is it's a roller coaster, man. There's ups, there's downs, and I think if I didn't hit those rock bottoms, yeah, I wouldn't be here. And if I didn't kind of accept the fact that I was an alcoholic, I probably wouldn't be here. And so yeah, I have a lot of gratitude for all that. So yeah, it's wonderful to have the support and you're often the last one to realize things. Everybody around you is like, oh wow, like, he drinks too much. I'm sure if I asked 40 or 50 people that I know if you thought I was an alcoholic, 99% of them would say yeah. And I was the last one to figure it out, right? But
That's
at
like
least
my addiction was the same way. I'm like, what? You think people knew?
yeah.
You're nuts.
Oh my God. Just
Oh my God, it's insane. But you know what I was thinking about those people you said that lost their lives, unfortunately, your friends
yeah.
or your acquaintances.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times it's because you and I'll speak for myself, but I think you too. We were lucky enough to have people that loved us. The support.
Yeah. No question.
Getting clean is such it takes a city, a village, you know, like yes, the programs are important and your willpower and your desire and your
Yeah.
personality and where you are and rock bottom and all that, but then it
Yeah.
helps if you've got a couple of people around that love you and want you to be alive and support you, you know.
There's no question. And yeah, I mean the reality of that is um yeah, these people stuck with me. Some people, of course, I mean, I know that I um injured the relationships. Of course I did. Are they as good as they were? No, no. It takes a long time to heal those wounds. And trust is a thing that takes a long time to repair. There's no doubt about it. And that is a struggle, especially for a lot of alcoholics, because they want trust right away and they want to be trusted. But man, like you
Not
made
we're
made
not
some
trustworthy.
mistake.
We're
No,
really
and
not. So
yeah, I mean, look, the severity of addiction is that yeah, everybody's journey out of it is different. And I know another individual in the program, and he lost just about everything. I know that he lost his wife and his daughter, and he's very very alone. And that is, I mean, that's just such a harder place to be in. I mean, it really is. Like you can get a great amount of support in a room from these individuals. I mean, I call them friends because they are friends, but they are acquaintances too. Like,
and
um, but sometimes that's just not enough.
no.
You do need these lifelong friendships and the people that you've been with your life to be there in your corner. It's such a strong help. And when I went through the amends, which is a part of the program, and I made amends with friends and loved ones, that was a wonderful gift too, because most of them really were very supportive. They accepted that. They knew that that was the right thing. And it was a huge relief when I did that, to just kind of get it off my chest and just say, look, I am really sorry. And sorries only go a long way, only go a certain way. You can say it 100 times.
Boy, start.
Yeah, it's really, this is an actions speak louder than
Yeah.
words moment, right? So
But it's story's a good place to start.
it is. It is. There's no, because you're recognizing your own fault, and you're admitting that you fucked up, and that, you know, although you didn't intentionally do it, it doesn't really change the fact that you did it.
Yeah, it was still you. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I
You refer to your addict self and your regular self, and I do too, because that that person who was intoxicated, who was, addicted to alcohol, wasn't my true self, but it is the self that I had become. There's no way to deny that.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
if you commit a crime while you're drunk or stoned, you're still going to jail. I
Doesn't
mean,
matter. Yeah. Yeah. that wasn't. Hey, that was my addicted self, man. I wasn't me.
Yeah,
Like
come on, Judge. I'm in AA now.
it's the it's the classic. It's the Jekyll and Hyde. Like you could, it's a Jekyll and Hyde story. You literally are two different people.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
one, so it is like you
But
live.
a judge would say, no, there's AA inside too. Don't worry, you'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people get sober in those places. So yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people get clean off of drugs too, but it's a hard way to go.
Oh God, yeah, I can only imagine.
There's some places where you get good treatment. There's some places that you sell with, and you go through the withdrawals. I mean,
Yeah,
well, I'll talk a little bit about my opiate addiction.
please, yeah,
I've had multiple addictions,
yeah.
but I'm going to talk about my opiate addiction today.
Hmm.
My opiate addiction was the big one for me that ruined my life for a while. I've recovered.
Yeah, thank you.
But I was, it started, I was driving with somebody one day and they had a bottle of pills and they were taking them. And they said, do you want to try one of these? And I said, sure. Because I don't know. I trusted this person. I'm easy. I don't know, whatever. It was called a groovy or something. I didn't know what it was. And I took one, liked the way it felt. Later on, asked for another one, kept asking for more. Eventually found out they were Percocet.
Yeah,
Then I went to my doctor and asked, no, before that, somebody I knew went and got some because I was paying so much for them. They thought they were doing me a favor by buying them cheaper. It was about money.
yeah,
And I started telling my doctor I needed them for pain. And I started out getting 12 and then 24. By the end of it, I was getting 360 a month and I was getting 3 of the 30 milligram ones, the pure Oxycontin a month.
mm,
And then I would use all that within 2 weeks and then go and beg and plead for more and get double. And I was still buying them off the street.
mm.
I was taking 70, 80 pills a day at least.
Wow, yeah,
Sometimes paying $10 a pill for those.
yikes.
Um, that was a 14-year span.
Wow,
Now the first 5 years were fine. I think they probably did me some good, like as far as my job, my personality. They made me feel good. They took off the kind of like booze. They took the edge off. I was outgoing. Um, I was going through a lot. My dad was my partner, but he had an accident and I was taken over and I was on my own. And I couldn't talk about my whole life in this short podcast, but I was going through a lot. Just put it that, and these I thought were helping.
yeah,
I told my wife I was taking them. She didn't like it. But they weren't doing too much. And then a guy, actually somebody we both know, the strangest guy said to me, he said, Shawnee, you be careful with those, you know. And this guy was the last guy I would take drug advice from. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be all right. I'll be all right. I'm all right, God, I wish I'd listened to him. I wish I'd listened to him because all of a sudden I was a complete 1000% addict and it was too late. I didn't realize it until it was too late, Chris.
yeah.
It was
I,
just,
I think that's the reality of most addictions. First,
not scary.
yeah,
Like it was like I looked in the mirror and I'm like, what the hell? I can't function without these pills. Like I am losing, I am lying, I am stealing, I'm not paying the mortgage, I'm not doing anything. I'm taking pills. I need my pills. It was so crazy at the end. Like I got up on a Sunday one day, just for example, drove an 8-hour round trip instead of being with my wife and watching football, an 8-hour round trip to pick up 40 pills that I paid $400 for, and they were gone at noon the next day.
wow,
Like,
yeah,
think about that.
yeah,
I didn't have any local place to buy them. I
yeah,
wasn't in that scene. So if I couldn't get them from my doctor, or sometimes I get them mailed in from Ontario, um, I knew a guy in Nova Scotia that would get them for me. And he wasn't even a drug dealer. I asked him one day, he was somebody I worked sort of with, and he was looked at me like, why are you asking me? I said, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why. I'm embarrassed. I need them. Like that's what they did. I
yeah,
would do anything, Chris.
yeah. First,
Anything.
yeah,
Anything.
yeah,
I dragged them through airports loose. Like I remember one day I had so many with me in my backpack. If the cops had counted them, I'd have been in jail.
yeah.
And all I
Yeah.
could picture, I was sitting there going, I'm going to call my wife from jail tonight. I can't,
Right.
she is going to leave me. It's going to be over. We would go down south with my company on trips, and I would take them with me. And even though I had enough to get through, I would overtake them. I would
Yeah.
overtake them. And then I would have, the last day of the trip would be there, the travel day, and I'd be out.
White knuckling it. Yeah.
Full withdrawal, losing
Yeah.
my shit,
Yeah.
begging people for help. Like, I remember one trip we came back from Aruba, and Shonda was not even talking to me because she was so mad that I was in withdrawals. Because I was going through hell. She didn't care.
Yeah.
I don't blame her.
No.
We were on the plane to Moncton, and they announced that we might not land because of snow. We might have to go back to Toronto. And I started losing it, like fucking losing it. So much that some guy ahead of us stood by and said, "Ma'am, are you okay?" Because he thought I was being such an asshole that I was abusing my wife. And I said, "You get the fuck away from me." And then we almost got in a fist fight right there in the plane. I mean, the things
Wow.
I always
Yeah.
say this, like, and then we would go through periods where I would say, "Okay, Shonda, I gotta just take the right amount. I gotta take what I'm prescribed. I'm gonna give them to you. You give me 12 a day. You dole them out.
Yeah.
And don't give them to me no matter what."
Yeah.
Yeah, right. By
Yeah.
noon, and I'm like, I changed my mind. I want my pills. And
Right.
she's like, "No, you told me no." And I'd say, "No, I want my pills."
Right.
And it would turn into a scream fest
Sure.
until eventually she'd take the bottle and fire them at my head as hard as she could and tell me to fuck off.
Yeah.
And I always say, don't ever, the one advice I'll give the addicts, don't ever put your loved one between you and your substance, because
Right.
it won't go well. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Leave them out of it.
Yeah.
So, but that was why my wife stayed with me. I don't know. She
Yeah.
saved my life. My sister helped save my life. She got me into detox where I and down where I wasn't even really supposed to go, but she had some connections. I went to a great detox program. My children were there for me when I got out. But
Yeah.
that's what an opiate addiction takes away everything from you. I've spoke at schools. I spoke with the University of BC. I've spoken in front of nursing groups, a lot of people in front of suicidal talks. People, they think of the big stuff it takes, but it took my money, wiped me out, bankrupted me.
Yeah.
It took away respect from other people,
Yeah.
took away my kids' respect. My
Yeah.
wife
Yeah.
used to tell them I had the flu, but eventually she told me, "I'm not telling them anymore. You have to tell them the truth."
Right.
That was really hard on me to see my son look at me like, "I can't believe that you're a drug addict, Dad." Now, both my sons have forgiven me since, but it was a long, hard go. But it took away little things. Like I used to love going to movies like Star Wars and James Bond and Lord of the Rings, and I couldn't care less. I lost all interest in all things, lost all my sex drive. I mean,
Yeah.
anyone that knew me knew that I had a big sex drive. I love girls, and I couldn't care less. Lost the zero, like gone. Um, didn't like food anymore. Uh, didn't like anything. I would go to the movies with my family, and Shonda look over, and I'd be passed out drooling in the seat. Like
Right.
wonderful, eh?
Yeah.
It's so much
Yeah.
fun.
It's a great way to live, eh?
Oh yeah, and we go after supper. We go watch TV, and I'd pass out. I was gone. She'd go to bed, and I'd wake up like.
Yeah.
And if I did go to bed, I'd wake up screaming her name because I would have such bad opiate nightmares.
Yeah.
Like just I would start screaming her name in the dream, and then eventually would come to voice, and she'd wake up, and I'd be just screaming her name. Like I mean, she'd go through that night after night. Like, and then so that's and that's just a touch on it. I can't explain it much.
Yeah. We may have to do a second episode on this one.
Yeah, I think we're gonna. I'm just gonna touch on withdrawals, and then um, we can kind of maybe we'll talk about a part two, but
Yeah.
withdrawals, you talked about your withdrawals almost killing you. Opiate withdrawals don't kill you. They say they're the worst withdrawals, but they don't kill you. And
Yeah.
I used to describe it as your bones trying to escape your body. Like
Yeah.
your
You mentioned that.
bone is trying to get out of your body, and you feel you you can't get happy. You can't feel better. The only thing that makes you feel better is that pill, and you're not allowed to have it. And you will say anything, do anything. You'll cry. You won't sleep. You'll just lay there by yourself. It isolates you. No one understands. I remember I went into really bad withdrawals not long after my first son's wedding. I remember sitting at the hospitals, walking up and down, and my brand new daughter-in-law from about 2 weeks ago sitting there watching me. And I thought, "Oh, this is wonderful, man. You're a real piece of work. You're a real fucking piece of work."
Right.
No, like the stuff I put my family through.
Yeah.
But you know what? And I would like to talk more about it sometime. Maybe we can do like an add-on, but the positive side of this is I am over 7 years clean. My family stuck with me. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I've never had a relapse, knock on wood, not
Amazing.
one.
Yeah.
I got some help through a local doctor that got me on Suboxone, which is
Mhm.
kind of like it works kind of like a high-end methadone, except it's not, it's a little cleaner than methadone, and it doesn't alter your mind at all. It just takes away some of the withdrawals and cravings, and you can stay on it for life if you want, or you can take it for a couple weeks, whatever. But it helps you get off. And I suggest people do anything and everything they can to get off it. And that includes probably methadone,
Yeah.
detox for sure,
Yeah.
maybe Suboxone, then support groups like I run a life ring, which is kind of an alternate to AA. It's non secular, or AA or NA or GA or whatever. But with opiates, go to a group, get help, throw everything you can at it. Just go to like in Moncton, you can go to the mental health and addiction center, and they'll put you in a group and a program. Then they'll get you a counselor for free if you want. Like I say, just run at it. Everything you can, everything you can, everything you can, everything you can, because it's worth it. That's the thing. No matter how hard it is, I think you'll feel the same about you getting clean.
Yeah.
It's worth it, man. It's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like you would advise people to become addicted to getting to recovering. Like, I mean, we're already
Almost.
addicted people. Like, why not just become addicted to doing that? It's, um,
Yes.
and just a couple things. I just like just after listening to you, realistically, how long do you think it took for you to become addicted? I mean, I'm guessing it's like a week or maybe two. I don't even know.
I think I was addicted to the first pill.
Wow,
I'm,
that is a powerful thing, eh?
I loved it. And other people will take one and they go, oh, this doesn't do anything. Don't even like
Right,
this. I
right.
I wanted more the second I took it. It hit my lips, and then half an hour later, I just was like, wow.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
didn't know I was addicted right away, but I was addicted right away. It was all I thought about.
Yeah, but you needed it. You probably had a hole somewhere in your soul or whatever in your being that it was like, oh, okay, this is the way I want to feel.
Well, I was still dealing with my mom's suicide. I never dealt with it. My
Yeah,
dad had an accident. My niece died. My dad was my partner. He
yeah,
left me. I
yeah,
mean, I was a young dad. My life had just a
yeah,
million things,
yeah.
trauma that I'd never dealt with. And this
Oh, yeah,
made me not think about it for a minute.
yeah. There's always going to be traumas and things that we haven't dealt with, and then we try to mask that really by taking a substance that makes us feel the way we want to feel, just
Right.
naturally, ultimately, right?
Right. But
Um, the other thing, other question: how long were you in detox? Like, what was that program like?
well, detox, I only went for a week in detox.
Okay.
And then I thought I was doing great. My kids met me. I come out. I was so happy. But then I got home, and the next day I'm like, wait, I don't feel good. And I realized in detox they'd been giving me methadone, and it all wore off. And I panicked.
I see.
And I
Yeah.
found this clinic. We looked it up in the phone book and went and got in Suboxone. And then we went right and got in a group. And detox was only a week, but I went right into a plan. Like I
Right.
had a support group with the government, and I had got a counselor, Julie was her name, and she saved my life. And it, I, but I just, but detox was only a week. And the problem with me is I should have been there longer,
Mm.
but it's my personality. I always try to overachieve at it. So I'm
Yeah.
in there trying to be like the king of detox, like, oh no, I'm doing great. And I'm running the support groups, and so they think I'm fantastic, right? And I shouldn't
Right.
have been. I should have been calm the fuck down, right? Like
Yeah. Slow down. Slow
I do
down.
it with therapists. I'm always trying to impress them how great I am. And I stop getting therapy. I'm like, holy fuck,
Yeah.
I'm horrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
You would say that once you finished your detox that you really felt like you were free and clear of it? Like you must still have thoughts like
No,
how
I wasn't. I wasn't. If I hadn't have got on Suboxone right away and
yeah.
started counseling right away, I'd have gone back to being an addict for sure. Detox,
Yeah.
detox just got it out of my system, like physically.
Yeah.
But that's the easy part. It took
Yeah.
months, years, forever to get it out of your life. But
Yeah. I mean, I think and this is really just my opinion or my
mm,
analyzing things. Like I think alcohol, people think about it. They think, oh, alcoholics, they'll go, oh, I can have a few beers. Like, like what's that gonna be? But often, of course, it leads into a few beers, leads into 3 beers, which leads into 6 beers, and then the next day you're like, oh, I had 6 beers, I feel okay, I'm gonna have 8 beers. So it's the perpetual cycle. But I mean, I've met people in the program that do heroin, that smoke crack, that to me, I don't know, this is just my assessment, but like those things are like, wow, like when you get back to like sticking a needle in your arm, that just seems like a bigger deal to me. But I'm not, I just don't know that they're all on an equal plane.
I
I
don't
think
think so. I would have gotten there
some,
eventually
to me,
because
some are worse. Yeah.
opiates are heroin. It's just
Yeah.
pill form.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Oh, and heroin, it's what it is. And heroin's cheaper
Yeah.
and easier to get actually.
Yeah.
So if I'd have stayed on down the road and my wife had left me and I not got clean, I probably would have ended up there. I know a guy that did the exact same thing as me for a living in the States. Was a
Yeah.
millionaire.
Yeah.
Beautiful wife, mansion, family. He got on the same thing as I got on. He lost his job, his mansion, his wife, his kids, and then killed himself. Doing the
Wow.
exact same thing. The Prince, the singer Prince, he was worth $500 million when he died. Or whatever. He died taking the same thing that I was taking, just opiates.
Interesting that you meant bring that up, because we were talking about Prince the other day. I think that something happened though. There was a conversation about the fact that somebody had mixed something wrong with the medication. They had mixed things up, and there was a lot of question marks around that as to whether he did that voluntarily or whether there was
No, he didn't kill himself.
something in what he.
Well, the way I heard
Yeah,
it was he OD'd
yeah,
on an airplane and they hit him with noxolone to save him. It drives all the opiates out of your system. And then he got hospitalized for a bit. Then he got out and went and got his pills and took a bunch and OD'd by mistake. His system was clear. He shouldn't have taken so much. Um, but that's why last week I recommended the movie, the series Dope Sick, because that's
yeah,
about the
yeah,
Sackler family. I mean, they made billions and billions of dollars and ruined millions and millions of lives. And I was part of a
yeah,
class action lawsuit because I deserve
yeah,
something. I'm sorry, but I lost everything. I lost my chance at retirement. I lost everything I had financially. And I was
yeah,
part of a class action
yeah,
lawsuit. And then all of a sudden, the province of BC put a lawsuit against them. And
yeah,
they canceled all ours, and the province took the money. Well,
yeah.
great.
I mean, it's obviously a fine line between free enterprise, um and the effect. So again, we talked about the LCBO, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, is what it is here. It's a government run organization that is providing a service, but to what end? Like, people that manage it, of course, that's okay. The fact that opioids, Percocets, OxyContin, all these things exist. Ultimately, they were developed for pain relief, as we
Right.
know. But it's when I mean, it's a crisis in Canada. It's a crisis in a lot of countries around the world, and so you can't necessarily fault them for making it, but it's the regulation of it, that comes into question. But of course, at the end of the day, we all really have to take responsibility for how we have treated it. But again, I think, and we're probably getting near the end here. I'd say 30. Um, I feel like we probably could definitely have a second episode on that. But I've got a book recommendation here too.
Just before you do
Um,
that, you says your bandwidth is low, like you've gotten a little glitchy. It says Chris Crocom's network?
oh, sorry.
I don't know if you can move closer to the house. Anyway, it's okay. It's just your screen's gone a little smaller, but I can still hear you.
Sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
What's your recommendation?
I have it here with me because I wanted to read something from it.
Perfect.
It's called Healing the Shame That Binds You by John Bradshaw.
Okay.
It's all about trauma. It's all about the trauma that really starts in everyone's life when they're young. When they're young, it's like you're kind of born perfect in God's image, let's call it, or just a perfectly innocent child. Nobody's going to look at a newborn baby and think that they're flawed or guilty or done anything. Like, you're perfect. Let's face it. It's only the things that start to happen to you that change,
Right.
your being. Um, we talked a lot of in the last episode about our parents and things that that happened to us as a result of that. No one's free from that. Nobody,
No,
nobody.
no.
And he touches it's healing the shame. So shame and guilt are quite synonymous. What there's slight different definitions, but ultimately I don't think anyone is free of some form of shame. And I highlighted this because I wanted to read it for our podcast today, but it's shame as the core and fuel of all addiction. That's the topic in this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to read it. Okay.
Yeah.
Neurotic shame is the root and fuel of all compulsive and addictive behaviors. My general working definition of compulsive addictive behavior is a pathological relationship to any mood altering experience that has life damaging consequences. The drivenness in any addiction is about the ruptured self, the belief that one is flawed as a person. The content of the addiction, whether it be an ingestive addiction or an activity addiction, like work or buying things or gambling, is an attempt at an intimate relationship. The workaholic with his work, the alcoholic with his booze, are having a love affair. Each one mood alters to avoid the feeling of loneliness and hurt in the underbelly of shame. Each addictive acting out creates life damaging consequences, which create more shame. The new shame fuels the cycle of addiction. It's the addicts call this the squirrel cage. We know this. I used to drink to solve problems caused by drinking. The more I drank to relieve my shame-based loneliness and hurt, the more I felt the shame.
Right.
Shame begets shame. The cycle begins with the false belief system that all addicts have, that no one could want or love them as they are. In fact, addicts can't love themselves. They are an object of scorn to themselves. This deep internalized shame gives rise to distorted thinking. The distorted thinking can be reduced to the belief that I'll be okay if I drink, eat, have sex, get more money, work harder, etc. The shame turns one into what Kellogg, who's an individual who's been quoted here, has termed a human doing rather than a human being. So, for me, I've been reading this book. I think it's like it's a lot. I mean, I know that's a lot to digest just in that moment, but it really talks about how the process of our life results in shame. Things that, if our parents weren't, supportive enough, if they didn't, give us the love we wanted, if they didn't, parent us the way we needed it, we eventually start to have this shame that builds up that ultimately turns into addiction. I talked about it in a meeting the other day. You have this empty feeling, and I call and it's referred to in a lot of texts and books. It's like a hole in your soul. I think when you're born, your soul is whole, and as you move on through life, there are pieces of it that fall out, and you end up trying to fill it with an addiction, and ultimately, and it never works.
No.
The only way you fill it again is by getting rid of these shameful things, and by kind of going back and doing the reparation to repair your soul. So I think it's a wonderful book. I mean, it's
What's
a
the
lot
title,
to
the title again?
Healing the Shame That Binds You by John Bradshaw.
Okay. Awesome.
And I'm by no means an expert. I mean, I'm literally like I'm on page 30, but it will speak. I will speak to anyone who is an addict. It will speak to every one of them.
That's awesome, man. I'm gonna check it out. They say that if you don't have an addiction before the age of 25, you'll probably never have one. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, you mentioned that the other day.
Um,
Yeah, and that, I mean, that's surface for those people. They clearly, something was going really well for them when they were young, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
few and far between, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because there's people they don't even realize they're addicted to food or porn or whatever. But like
Oh, I
my
mean,
wife
we
always said,
haven't even.
go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go.
I was going to say, my wife used to say, why can't you get addicted to something positive just once? Just something like exercise or
Yeah,
work or fixing the house,
yeah.
something. But I'll give
Well,
my,
we just, yeah,
I was going to give my recommendation.
yeah, no,
And I know it's
okay,
tough sometime over Zoom. It's hard not to talk over the other guy. There's a little bit of a delay. But mine is a book this week. It's called The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer.
okay,
Very
yeah,
popular book. I'm sure a lot of people have read it, but
yeah,
it's a lot about finding inner peace and the inward journey and mindfulness. And it's an easy read. It's not a long read, but if anybody hasn't read The Untethered Soul, I highly recommend they read it. It's an awesome read. So
okay.
it's
I
my
haven't read it, so
check it out. You'll
yeah,
like it.
I will, I will.
Unfortunately,
Um,
I haven't seen you very well the last few minutes. You're very small but you're sounding okay.
I'm sorry.
Podcast, so
Okay. Just a couple final thoughts. Yeah, we barely scratched the surface, I think, on this. We talked a bit about our own journey, but yeah, I mean, addiction. I thought a bit about it this morning, like addiction to cell phones. Like
Mm,
this is epidemic. I
huge
mean,
screen time.
I mean, I saw a video recently, and there's an image of a mom holding a baby, and the mom is staring at the phone, and the baby is looking at the phone, and they were basically like what they were saying was like the baby sees the phone as something that's more important to that mom as the child. Like
Wow,
like can you like the trauma that starts right there?
wow.
It's like I know.
And people are
So yeah,
giving
there's a
kids
lot of
iPads when they're two, like to entertain them, and they start it right from, and that's it. That's it for life.
yeah,
It's scary. I hate
yeah.
seeing people go to concerts. And instead of listening to the music and being in the experience, they're holding up
Yeah,
their camera, taping it. Like,
on
put
their phone
it
the
down.
whole time. Yeah.
Like, and you're never
You're
gonna watch
saving
the
you're
video. You're never
saving it for
gonna
that.
see.
Yeah, I know.
There's
I know.
millions of recordings of this band you can go watch if you want to. Enjoy this experience. It's once in a lifetime. Like, get
Yeah,
into it, man. Like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
but
Generationally, I think, yeah.
no, kids are addicted to screen time, and
Generationally, yeah,
they don't
yeah,
know how to talk to real people. They don't know how to make real
yeah,
girlfriends. I mean, that movie, Her, with
yeah,
Joaquin Phoenix, about he falls in love with his phone, like the girl on the phone. It's not too far
yeah,
off.
yeah, yeah.
It's scary.
It's not. Not. No, no.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
I think yeah, it's getting a little overcast here. Maybe that's part of my problem. I'll have to like address that for the next episode. But
oh well,
it's been a great chat.
it has been. I
Yeah,
think we should do a part two. Uh,
I
but
think it's probably inevitable.
yeah, I think a lot of ours are going to need more talks. But I think it's nice for now to have a new topic every week, so we don't get stuck on anything too heavy. But I think we just scratched the surface. We can't have, I can't have a 25-year journey and talk about it in an hour. But even last week after, I felt I was a little hard on my father. But none of this is to be, I'm
Yeah,
not trying to attack anybody. But I mean, I run myself
of
down
course
more
not.
than anybody else. I'm just trying to be truthful. I'm
Yeah,
just giving people my truth. And I'm trying to help other people with my truth. But I'm not trying to hurt anybody by
yeah,
any means. I don't want anyone to ever think that. So, but my story is my
no.
story and it involves other people. So,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think we both know that it's cathartic to share our experiences. It's nice to be able to talk about them openly and honestly. It helps kind of free yourself of it, and it's been great to just talk about it. And that's the great thing about a lot of the programs that we're involved with, whether it's Life Ring or AA or CA or NA. It does give people an opportunity to slowly kind of just release that from themselves and
exactly.
listen to others and kind of, get the tools. Got to keep putting the tools in the toolbox to get better, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, listen, we'll
Yeah.
call it a podcast. I think this is
Okay, brother.
number 7, lucky 7, I think. So we're doing well.
Yeah.
I'll put a little piece of music on to wrap this up, and I'll talk to you soon, I'm sure.
All right, brother. Love you.
Love you too, man. Take care of yourself. Have a good week.
You too. You too. All right.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day, brother.